Hey guys, Mel the Train Tutor again, back with part 2 of our, our wire trees. Now in the first part of the video, and if you haven't seen it, I'll throw a link up at the top, what we did is we basically covered making the wire armatures and covering it with bark, covering it with milliput and sculpting the bark. Now I've sort of jumped on from there and sort of based it and painted it, and this was just a simple matter of putting it on an MDF base, yeah, adding some filler as texture, and then a bit of gravel and painting it up. And with painting it up, what I've done is I've painted with a dark brown and gone over it with a dark wash just to get that bark texture. As always with everything in terrain building, you know, how good it looks and how detailed it is down to how much time you put into it, guys. And basically, you know, I haven't gone crazy on this. Yeah, I want to show you the process. What we'll do in a future video is we'll look at more realistic bark colours and foliage. But let's look at sort of what I did for the Broken Spirit build, yeah, and just finish this off. Now, we're at the stage, yeah, where it's all painted up. It's all ready to have the, foliage, the bushes, the tree material attached to it. Now, there's a couple of options, okay? For the Broken Spirit build, I went for, Lichen. Or Lichen. I preferred Lichen, but you know, I'm slowly getting over to this Lichen malarkey. Yeah. On top of that, you've got things like clump foliage. The camera's there, isn't it? Yeah. So as you can imagine, you could glue these down. Yeah, and it makes quite a bushy tree, if you know what I mean. Quite a solid, full sort of tree. You can use dyed cotton wool. You can use specialist tree foliage. You can create millions of branches and actually glue on individual leaves with birch seeds. Yeah, but what we're going to do in this one is just follow what we did for the Broken Spirit build. Okay, so we're just going to go with Lichen. All those other materials I'll cover in a future video, guys, yeah, because there's quite a lot you can do on trees, but let's get stuck in. So very quickly, let's talk about glues. Right, my preference is hot glue. Yeah, because it's quick, it's easy, it's clean, yeah, and generally I don't have to worry about if I glue a bit down, it's going to fall off as it's drying. Okay, but let's say you haven't got the hot glue and you want other options. Well, there's PVA. Now, if you go for PVA, yeah, what I highly recommend is you take the top off and you leave it for 3 or 4 days to thicken up. Yeah, because the thicker it is, the better the adhesion is. If your PVA is really watery, your bits are just going to fall off. Okay, now if you don't want to dry out your PVA and you know want a quicker solution, then we've got Copydex. Okay, yeah, can you see that? Now Copydex is a latex glue, which means it's a rubber glue, as you can tell, because it will, yeah, see that? Yeah, that's the rubber dried. But basically it's a much thicker glue and it's got a quicker drying time. Yeah, so with clump foliage and this sort of stuff, it works really well. And it is just simple a matter of putting it on there and and just sticking your lichen on. Your lichen Lichen. We're going to have arguments over that. I really can see we're going to have arguments over that. But my preference is hot glue, okay? And as I said, you know, that's what I'm going to use for this tutorial. If you want to use these, then really make sure they're thick, make sure, you know, they've got decent adherence, otherwise your bits are just going to fall off. And when it comes to the actual Lichen, see, I can't decide what to call it. Yeah, this is just a mixed bag from Jarvis Scenic, who are a railway manufacturer. Now, when you look at Lichen, yeah, it always reminds me of lungs. Okay, this is the stuff you want on the underneath. This is the stuff you want on the top. Okay, now it always reminds me of lungs because I always, you know, my background's in sort of, you know, medicine and that sort of stuff. I'm a trained physiotherapist by trade, you know, combat medic from the army. But anyway, this reminds me of lungs, but because of these branches, and that's why I think it works really well as an actual material. And what I'm going to do is basically seek out some nice good clumps, yeah, and then I'm going to build up the tree. Yeah, so let's go for that one there. Yeah, just break that bit off a bit more. Yeah, and what I'm doing here is I'm breaking down the extra sort of stalks, yeah, just so I get the main clump. Yeah, get my hot glue very quickly. Just put it on. Spread it about with the tip while it's hot. Yeah, don't worry about the little strands that come off. We can clean those up afterwards. Yeah, the important thing is you don't flood it so that you get hot glue dropping down onto your base. If you want, you can cut a bit of paper with a little slit and a little hole and sort of sit it round and dress it almost. Yeah, so you can catch those bits. On you go. That's dried already. Right. Sorry, guys. A bit more. So that's too much talking, not enough doing. There we go. Push it down, hold it down just a little. I don't want to crush it, yeah, because the last thing I want to do is sort of destroy that sort of bumpy look. So there you are, there's the first one in. And then all I'm going to do is just carry on in that process, and I'm looking for reasonably big clumps to pour on. Yeah, there's a reasonably nice one, so take that. What we'll do is we'll tuck that one in there, just under there. Don't want to break that down too much. And I'm just going to crack on with just gluing this down now. So let's do the big bits. And there you have it, guys. Look at that. Yeah, let me just scroll that around slowly. Okay, and as you can see, it's a really simple technique, yeah? All that remains is for me to just seal it now with some watered down PVA, just like you would with any other phlox and foliage, yeah? This is particularly important with lichen because it's a living plant. Well, it's obviously not living at this point, but it is actually a plant, and so it will wither and dry out over time. So sealing it sort of just preserves it, yeah. And what it also helps do is just help it bond, yeah. At the minute, it's only really stuck by the strands, okay, where the strands are touching the hot glue that are touching the armatures. And by sealing it, what you do is you sort of seal it, and it'll make all these little clumps just join together and make it a lot more sturdier. But there you are, guys. That's that's how to do lichen trees. Now, big gap there. Yeah, that's probably because I didn't bring a branch up and I should have spread one across there. But there's no foul. It still looks awesome. Yeah, as I said, in future videos, we'll look at more advanced techniques for the bark. Yeah, and to make more realistic trees. Yeah, and we'll look at all sorts of different, foliage materials. Yeah, this one was obviously lichen. We've got to look at clump foliage. We've got to look at the specialist tree foliages. And at one point, yeah, we'll go on full bore and do, a fully featured one. Yeah, but hopefully this should give you enough to sort of get cracked on. So, as always, guys, yeah, if you've got any questions, yeah, fire them down in the comments, guys. That's what the comments are for. If you've done any tree work and you've got anything to add to this and anything I've missed, any tips, put those in the comments, guys. Yeah, I'm always after learning, and it makes a great resource for the viewers, for you guys. Finally, if you like terrain tutorials, then click a subscribe on the channel, guys, if you're new. And if you've liked this video, yeah, then click the like button, guys. You know where it is. Yeah, and finally, guys, listen, I'm going to get cracked on. I've got a few more tutorials I want to film before the kids get back. Yeah, so, listen, you have a cracking time. I'll catch you in the comments, guys. All the best. Ta-ra.